Raven, our sixth 100-ton vessel, was built in 2012. She was built by Scarano Shipyard in upstate New York. She spends most of her time in Baltimore doing charters and tours, but makes some trips over to St. Michael's and Annapolis for special events. Raven is 79 gross tons, 100 feet in length, and she's propelled by 2 John Deeres with approximately 1,000 horsepower and 2 Cummins Onan generators. Of course, we have the water taxis. The water taxis offer taxi service in the Annapolis area, including Annapolis Harbor, Spa Creek, Back Creek from April through October. These vessels are single screw and are powered by 85 horsepower Yanmar diesel engines. We have 4 water taxis in total. The other 2 vessels you see in that picture, one with a blue hull, one with a white hull, those are our Miss Anns, Miss Ann and Miss Ann 2. They do our 40-minute Spa Creek cruises through Eagle Alley, Annapolis Harbor, and Spa Creek. Captain credentials. Coming on board with Watermark to drive our larger vessels, you need a 100-ton Merchant Mariner credential. Our smaller vessels, water taxis and Miss Anns, we ask that you have a 25-ton or higher. With that, your medical certificate is required, a valid medical certificate, and we go by the national expiration date for that. The Marine Radio Operator's Permit, that's required to operate a VHF radio on board vessels that carry more than 6 passengers for hire. We do ask that our captains coming on board do have a TWIC card. All of our captains that are newly employed with Watermark need to have a TWIC card. We have 2 subchapter K vessels that it is required on, and you do have to keep renewing that to work on those 2 vessels. And last but not least, the first aid, CPR, and AED, a valid CPR card as well. To apply at Watermark, if you're interested, our website is watermarkjourney.com. Right there at the top left. From this page, you will scroll to the bottom, all the way to the bottom, almost right above the copyright. It says employment. You will click on the employment page, and it will bring you to this. Water opportunities, captains, crew, bartenders, ticket agents, operations assistant. Fill out an application. Click that blue button right there, and it will take you to a form, an automated form that puts you, once you complete this form, it puts you right in our database, and no more than a day or 2, someone will be reaching out and scheduling an interview. Let's see what else. Oh, if you have any questions and you do not want to ask them here, here's my contact information, always available. If I don't answer, leave a message, or even better, send me an email and I will get back to you. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I neglected to say, and I'm hoping everybody knew, I sort of took for granted that, you know, the panel discussion is working your license. So, and what I did, I started a little late. It was like right near the beginning of your presentation, Captain Jake, recording this. So we will have this up on the our website within the next several days after the meeting. But it is being recorded, so we're good. Our next presenter is Captain Rick Iuliucci, and I will turn it over to you. I will mute myself, and you just let me know when you want to change the slide, and we'll make it happen.
Okay, thank you, Bill. I appreciate it. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for letting me sit in tonight. I'd like to kind of give you an overview of Vang Brothers. It's got some interesting history. So I thought I would share that with you. We'll go into a little bit of detail about the equipment we operate, the area we operate, and I can give you some particulars about, requirements for licensing and stuff like that, but a lot of that is based on the equipment that we operate, and there's a variable to that. So, Bill, if you want to go to the second slide, please. So Vane got their start in 1898, and you'll see a slide in a bit. They actually started out as a chandlery, and rolling through that pretty quick. So it's a privately held company. Duff Hughes is our president. Actually, the Vanes were cousins to the Hughes families, and when they started the chandlery, the Hughes family actually acquired them in the 40s. But the history of Vane, which I found fascinating, is they were the last operators of four masters on the Chesapeake Bay. The last one that they operated was the Doris Hamlin. A sidebar to that is the Doris Hamlin was sold in 1937, and she was lost off of Hatteras to a German U-boat with all hands. But in our headquarters facility, the oil lamps from that ship are still in the building. It's just fascinating to me. So Bill, if you want to roll to the next slide. Yeah, so there's a picture of the chandlery. That was actually the foot of Broadway. The Vane Brothers Company is no longer in the chandlery business, the aquatic Home Depot business. We don't do that anymore. What we deal with the vessel operations we have is solely the transportation of petroleum on tank barges. So you'll see when we get into the equipment, we do not engage in ship assist. We do not do any work with containerized freight. It's 100% a petroleum product. Our customers are the oil majors and actually the United States government. So we carry the vast majority of jet fuel for the United States military on the East Coast and down into the Caribbean, down into Guantanamo Bay, Key West. Could you roll to the next slide, Bill? So that's actually the old chandlery, which was at the foot of Broadway and Fells Point. And that was actually a photograph of Duff and his father. Duff is now our president. And he has two boys who recently graduated from Kings Point, both of them, Alex and Charlie. And the hope is that, the next generation will take over. His mother, Mrs. Hughes, still attends work every day. She's 93 years old, and I think she'd be proud to say that. And, very interesting person. She actually, her project at Hopkins was writing of the Eisenhower papers. So she also edits our company magazine, and she's pretty tough with a red pen. So we don't critique her writing skills at all. You could roll the next one. So though we are headquartered in Baltimore, as you can see from the slide, we have operations on both coasts with fleet support centers located throughout the country. We do operations in the Caribbean. So we'll trade from the Virgin Islands down to St. Lucia. We go to Antigua. We've done work in St. Eustatius. We also trade, which is not shown on the slide. New this past year, we've started operations in the Great Lakes, predominantly in Lake Erie, Lake Michigan. And we actually trade asphalt up in the lakes. Quite a big business for us. It's 130 vessels. It's predominantly comprised of, the bulk of it would be tank barges. And then we operate tugs. We have about 50 tugs. So the rest are tank barges. And they vary in size. I think the next slide may show you a sampling of that. Yeah. So we'll operate everything, we reference in our business, everything is in barrels. So 42 gallons to a barrel. But we operate tank barges, which are on the small side at 10,000 barrels. And our largest barges, our articulated tug barge units, are at 140,000 barrels. That equates to about a combined total LOA of the tug and barge of approximately 600 feet. The average size barge in the Vane fleet is about 50,000 barrels. And she comes in at about 367 feet in length, and I believe, if I remember correctly, 62 feet wide, 64 feet wide. Excuse me. So the one thing that Bain has capitalized on is, I guess we could say we stole something out of the Southwest playbook. A lot of the equipment is standardized. We were fortunate we had an active construction program over the last few years, and we were able to build and replicate the same class of vessel, which really goes a long way with training, spare parts, the ability to put mariners on different vessels and not have to re-educate them on how to operate the vessel. So we have a standard footprint for the tugs and for the barges. You'll see some of the barges are different size, like the tugs. Some are reduced horsepower, but they're pretty much standard. So all the equipment on board, the layout, the equipment, the main engines, pretty much all standardized, which really helps us in taking care of the fleet in real time as far as inventory and warehousing. You could go to the next one, Bill. Yeah, so our standard is Caterpillar is basically our prime mover of choice for the 3000s and the 42s. For the larger units, it would be an EMD, electromotive engine. They generate about 6,000 horsepower. So they're a medium speed diesel, where the Caterpillars are up around, say, 1850 RPM. The EMDs are running down around 750 RPM, much bigger plant. And again, I talked earlier about the standardization. The predominant towing power in our fleet is the 3,000 and the 4,200 horsepower tugs. That's what comprises mostly of what we have. So it might be a picture next, I think, or something. I've got one. You want to go to the next slide, Bill? There we go. Yeah, so the CAPCA class, first one was built in 2004. We operate 18 of these 4,200 horse conventional twin screw tugboat. Does have quart nozzles, if you're familiar with that principle. So it actually is most beneficial in towing. You get a lot more thrust out of that, pretty good efficiency. We'll operate these on both coasts and in the Caribbean. Typical composite is a 5-man crew. We have bunk space for 7, but on a day-to-day basis, it's a 5-man crew, licensed master, licensed mate, licensed chief engineer, an able seaman, and an ordinary seaman. And then on the tank barges, they are staffed independent of the tug. They're all manned barges, so we have tankermen who actually live aboard the barge, usually 2 to 3 people per barge. Next slide, Bill. So that's an example of the ATB, the Articulated Tug Barge, the one I talked about earlier, kind of large. So she relies on a mechanical coupling where there are very large cylinders that come out of each side of the tug, and they couple into a geared tooth type of arrangement in the barge. That's the only thing that keeps the tug connected to the barge. We don't use wires, we don't use lines, we don't use ropes. They're a big cylinder. They're about 60 inches a piece. A unit like this will perform in a sea state easily of 20 foot. We try to avoid 20-foot seas, but they can perform in 20-foot plus, and they make pretty good time. So the average sea speed on one of these is about 12 knots, which, I realize that doesn't seem like a whole lot, but when you're moving 6 million plus in gasoline or a distillate product, it's making pretty good sea speed. She is staffed slightly different. She carries a crew of 10. So on there, we're looking for a master, a chief mate, second mate, and then we carry a composite of engineers. So we have a chief, a first, and a second, along with the ordinaries and the ABs. Next slide, Bill. So this looks almost identical to the 4,200, the CAPCA class. This is a 3,000 horsepower tug. So the only thing that's really different, she's just a little bit smaller. But as far as layout goes, she's almost identical. Slightly different prime mover in 3512s, Caterpillars. Still staffed the same way, five crew members. Interesting enough, all of these tugs are built over in Salisbury. at Chesapeake Ship. They've done a really good job for us. They're excellent handling little boats. We employ these, not along the East Coast only, but also down the Gulf of Mexico. Pretty versatile boats. Next slide, Bill. The Elizabeth Ann class was new to us in 2016. Again, you're seeing similarities here, so they're looking the same. The changes on these boats were built down in Palaca, Florida, on the St. Johns River. But these employ Tier 3 emission controls. And we predominantly use these on the West Coast. So we have a fleet of these out in Seattle. We have a fleet of these in Los Angeles, LA, Long Beach. And I do have one up in San Francisco right now. So they're probably the newest vessels to the fleet. Staffed the same way, laid out the same way, same range, same horsepower. Next slide, Bill. In 2018, we engaged in a project with a shipyard in Orange, Texas, Conrad Ship. And we developed this articulated tug barge unit. Same principle as I talked about earlier, where it's mechanically coupled together with big cylinders that come out of each side of the tug. But it's an 80,000 barrel barge. The tugboats are 4,400 horsepower. Cummins is the prime mover on these. These are staffed the same way as the larger ATB, where you would have 10 crew members, again, carrying master, chief mate, second mate, chief engineer, first and second, ABs and OSs. And then the tankermen, have their quarters on the barge. So we operate with this unit with 3 tankermen. They're employed both in refined product, meaning clean gasoline, but then also in residual product, black oil, 6 oil. And we actually have one of these in asphalt service too in the Gulf of Mexico. Next slide, Bill. Just another shot of the Acevedo and the 801. So again, it's we're a Maryland-based company, so it's Acevedo, Chincoteague, and Waterways, which from people outside the Eastern Shore really don't know how to pronounce that, even worse than my name. So anyway, next slide, please. So that was a shot of the second boat being constructed. I guess if you can see there, it looks like a little red dot on the waist. That is the cylinder which would extend out into the side of the barge. Yeah, thank you. This barge, the tug and barge do not do the traditional towing that you would see up and down the coast where the barge would be streaming off the stern of the tug. In fact, this barge doesn't even have, this tug doesn't even have a towing winch or wire. So for all sea states, we're constantly coupled to the barge. It aids in our ability to control the barge, but also in the ability to increase speed. You're going to get a little bit better performance out of this than a traditional tow line tug and barge. Next slide, Bill. Just another shot. This particular one, the 803, is engaged in asphalt work. What makes her different is she has a 10 million BTU thermal fluid heater on board. When we load asphalt, it's usually coming on about 280 degrees Fahrenheit. And the customer's requirements are that's usually the minimum at which they will take it. They usually prefer it hotter than that. So they'll put it on cooler, and then we actually heat and bring it up to temperature for discharge. If you start getting down below 250 degrees, you truly do have asphalt. You have a parking lot in your barge, so that's a problem. Next slide. What we did is, for these articulated tugs, we modified our original design. So we took the CAPCA class tug and we incorporated the pin system into this particular tug. She's paired up with a 50,000 barrel barge. We have actually 2 of these. They perform quite well. They also were built down in Palaca, so they employ the emission technology. But the difference is that they have this pin system. Excellent performance with these things. Do great work with them. Yeah, that's a good example of that. Next slide, Bill. So our final project for construction as of now, because we still are building boats, which seems to be a rarity in the U.S., is this 3,000 horsepower push boat, like you would see out on the Mississippi River. What we did is we took the hull form of the 3,000 horsepower. We went to Chesapeake Ship. We had a requirement for shallow draft operations. So they were able to modify this to develop this pusher tug. It employs the same prime mover as the Sassafras class. But the difference is that she has about an 8-foot working draft with a 52-foot air draft, which makes her really handy for not only the Wacomico River, but also she can run the intercoastal waterway. So we could operate down into South Carolina, Georgia, Florida with this if we had to. Very handy. So we have 4 of these. 2 more are still being built. We're taking delivery of the Rock Hall in June, and then Duff's namesake son, Charles Hughes, will be delivered in November of this year. And then we'll be done with our fleet construction for now. Next slide, Bill. Just another picture of the Salisbury. I don't know if you can see the, I'm quite envious. The interior of these tugboats are just amazing. They've done a really good job with them. That's actually granite for countertops in there, in the galley. And I believe that's Sapala, I think is the wood that we use for that. So very nice. But staffed the same way as the other boats, as the model bow boats. So they carry a crew of 5. And they predominantly, the Salisbury and the Annapolis, you'll see them out on the bay. They are responsible for probably bringing in almost 90% of all the refined product to the Eastern Shore. So any gasoline or distillate product that's coming into the Eastern Shore is coming on a barge with these tugs. Next slide, Bill. I think probably everybody kind of knows where that's at. That is a photograph of one of the 200 series barges that you'll see going up and down the Wacomico. Yeah, everything into the Eastern Shore is clean product. So it's all gasoline or distillate product. Next slide. As we talked about earlier, that's the makeup of the crew. To go into some detail about that, what Vane would be looking for is a minimum of a 200-ton license. And by law, we're required to have a towing endorsement. That would be a necessity for us. So 200-ton made, 200-ton masters, where we would start up to a 1,600-ton. Do require STCW endorsements as we go foreign. We do quite a bit of work in Canada and in Mexico, both East Coast and West Coast of Canada. The TWIC card is also a requirement, along with the radio licensing and the medical certificates. I do have to make one correction to the slide. Our normal work rotation is 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. But unfortunately, this past year, we've had to make modifications with COVID too. So the challenge of changing people and getting them through airports across the country and just trying to keep people safe, we've had to extend our tour to 21 days on and 21 days off. So we're still achieving equal time, but we had to stretch it out. It just made it a little bit easier. And actually, most of the mariners appreciated that because once they're aboard the boat, they were pretty much in quarantine for 21 days and actually felt quite comfortable and really didn't appreciate many visitors. So we're still in that work rotation. The hope is that, hopefully things get better and people get vaccinated. We can go back to the 2 and 2. It is a 24-hour watch system. I mean, we do not tie up at night. So when they're off for 21 days, they're off, but also when they're on, we're on working 6 and 6 watch, 24/7. Next slide, Bill. So this goes without saying, our bread and butter is all about safety. Moving petroleum in a lot of areas which are very sensitive. The tolerance for mistake by the public, by the Coast Guard, by the federal government is not there. So we do vet our crew members, and we pay particular attention to the credentialing, their experience, safety culture, and safety behaviors. It's imperative. We operate under a safety management system, which is actually documented by the American Bureau of Shipping, and then given the approval by the United States Coast Guard. The tugs are recently incorporated in the subchapter M inspection criteria, and all the tank barges are certificated tank barges with the U.S. Coast Guard certificate of inspection. Next slide, Bill. And that's just a really nice little shot of us bunkering a cruise ship in Tampa. And unfortunately, as you guys know, we haven't seen a lot of cruise ship activity. So we hope to see them back someday soon. I think that's it for me.
Okay, that was really good, Rick. I think it's an excellent presentation. I move people, not product, and I for one have I think a newfound respect for the barges and the tug guys and what you all do. I for one would think this is something that maybe could be put together for recreational boaters, because they need to know when they're hauling down river and they see one of you guys out there, they need to give you a wide berth and not try to either to run across your bow or get too close and so on. So maybe we get together and talk about doing something like that, because from time to time I do present to other groups, and maybe we could combine something.
I would definitely welcome that.
Great. Okay. Our next presenter is Captain Dale Plummer. Captain Dale, are you ready?
Sure.
Okay.
Hold on,
Got it.
Screen here. Right, are we shared?
Yep, we can see it.
All right, anyway, thanks for having me on board today. After Rick's presentation there, I think I'm going to name my next boat Little Toot. We're definitely a smaller class vessel, and I just operate locally here in the bay. But a couple of years ago, Boat US made a series of videos featuring our location, and I thought this might be a good explanation of what we do. So I was going to play a video for you, and then we'll get back into some more of the details.
I'm Christine Plummer, and Towboat US Annapolis, Baltimore, and Middle River is my home. We have 10 boats, almost 11. We just got a new one. Oh, that was my husband that got us into the towing business.
So my wife does all the dispatching and runs the office. I get to work and play on the boats and handle that side of it. And now my sons are starting to get involved with getting their captain's license and helping with the boats and around the shop.
Dale was in corporate sales, but he knew he always wanted to be on the water.
So the reason I got into towing boats was really the joy of growing up on the water and getting back to working on the water, and then an opportunity to help people at the same time and support my family and still do something I love doing.
When he made that life-changing decision and decided to become the boat captain, it was the best decision he's ever made. He was the driving force behind it all, and then I ended up working part-time for him and then full-time for him, and now my kids are working for us. It's definitely a family business. My friends still look at me and say, remember the day you came to preschool and you were saying, oh my God, my husband just quit his job to be a boat captain? And I'm like, yeah, worked out pretty well, didn't it?
Right, so that's a little bit of our background, a little bit about us. We're a family-run business, and started a few years ago, and just kind of grew from there. It was in them early days when we just got started that I met the other captains from the other towboat operations, and a lot of them wanted to retire and wanted an exit plan, and I put a plan together of combining 4 ports to run the upper Chesapeake, central Chesapeake area. And it's finally come together with one centralized dispatch. We work on standardizing our vessels. A lot of the vessels we redo. All of our boats are single operator. So they have to be set up so that a single operator has access to all the systems. So a little bit of explanation of our area that we work in, or just for our local area. Covers 50 miles of the Chesapeake Bay. We have to the north of us, Towboat US Chesapeake City, Brandon Meshy. And to the south of us is Mary Gilmore, Towboat US Kent Narrows and Naps Narrows. And then farther south, Mike Shaw, Towboat US Breezy Point and Solomons. But basically, it's independent companies with a national company backing us. So we're still all small businesses. So a little bit about our operations. We currently have 12 boats in our fleet, and we continue to work to standardize the engines and equipment on each, so that our captains can use any vessel without having to relearn the systems. Now, all the boats are a little bit different. We have jet boats, diesels, outboards. We find it's just a better mix to have a mix of vessels so that we can respond to different situations. So the operators do have to learn how to operate the different vessels, but all of the systems on the vessels are similar. On any given weekend, we'll have as many as 9 boats actively towing at one time within our area. So what we do is, it's not just the towing. We tow recreational boats up to 100 feet. The average size is between 20 and 40 feet within this area. We provide salvage services for both open water and dockside sinkers. And we provide demo services for retired boats. Most of our captains are weekend warriors. Their day jobs include private security, firefighters, environmentalists, retirees, electricians. I have a lead captain for the Annapolis area and one for the Baltimore area. They work year round. A mechanic that keeps our boats operating and keeps all our vessels in top shape. And then we have the office for support help. In order to work for us, our captains must be able to operate under high stress circumstances and be able to remain calm and collected. Again, we operate all of our vessels single-handed. So it's up to the captain and his commands and his choice to have a positive outcome. Our captains need to be assertive so that they can take control of any circumstance. And these are typical requirements of any of the nationwide Towboat US companies. Ports nationwide are operated by individual companies and may have additional requirements. So even if we're not hiring locally in this area for captains that travel around the country, there's typically always opportunities around the country. Our hiring practices. Our hiring process starts with an informal meeting and ride-alongs with me or one of my lead captains, just to see if see if it's a good fit. It's kind of an interview for the prospective captain and for us, see if it's something they're really interested in doing. Yeah, a lot of people meet us on a sunny Sunday afternoon and it's all calm, and they tell us they want to do our job and would like to have our job and where we get our job, but they're not saying the same thing on a Saturday night at 2 o'clock in the morning in the middle of a thunderstorm in the middle of the bay. So we have to be able to handle all different types of situations. But after the captain gets checked out, then we move on to paid on-water training and evaluations, where the captains will be paired with another captain just to do ride-alongs for 2 to 6 months, depending on the captain's ability, just to learn how we treat customers, how we deal with customers, and how we get, and all the different type of situations that we see. A typical day, a captain would report to their vessel around 10 or 12 noon, complete their vessel safety checks, and be prepared for a busy day. Dispatchers are sent electronically to each vessel, and communication between captain, dispatcher, and customer is critical. Our goal was to respond to each customer in less than 1 hour. Most of our tows are for our Towboat US members who paid $0 for the towing, so they're very happy to see us and for the services we provide, especially when they see the bill that they could have been. There's our contact information if anybody needs additional information or would like to contact us. I'm trying to back out of this. Am I still shared?
Yeah, I think you are.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. Anyway, thanks for having us. If anybody has any questions, they can ask questions and we'll be happy to answer them for you.
Okay, we're going to hold off on the questions until a little later.
Okay.
There were I did see some come up, but Captain Priscilla will have some for you.
Yeah, I wrote it down.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I said I wrote down the question that's come in. So if you send them in on the chat, I'm keeping an eye on the chat, and eventually we'll also say you can open your mic when everybody's done.
Okay. Captain Dale, I appreciate your presentation. It's very good. As a former towboat operator myself, about 20 years ago, I had my own business I ran a single operator for about 5 years in the northern Potomac, from about the 301 bridge into DC area. And again, that was an amazing time. But once I retired from my regular job, I decided to retire from the towing business because being just by myself, I didn't feel like getting calls at 1 o'clock in the morning from somebody down in Georgetown that decided they were going to run all their music and everything all day long and didn't realize they don't have a generator and either had to be jump started or towed. 4th of July, and I don't know about you, but 4th of July is generally my busiest time of year for towing. So people were out here, way pre-COVID, looking at the fireworks and whatnot. And again, we'll get anchor lines wrapped around props, boats running out of fuel and whatnot. I remember one of my longest tows started near the 14th Street Bridge in DC, took it all the way down to the Occoquan. And by the time I got back home, it was daylight. So they wanted to get towed. So I'll tell you wherever you want to go. But yeah, I do appreciate what you guys do. Our next and final panelist is Captain Suzy Acevedo. Suzy, are you ready to go?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you got it.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. Okay, so I'm gonna, can everybody see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Yes, we can.
I'm gonna show you a small video. Okay, so Capitana SOS, we do a lot of things. We do boat deliveries anywhere in the Caribbean, around the world. We train charter captain, boat captains to do charters with chef. We support a lot of companies in the Caribbean and United States. Mostly, you know, anything, powerboat, sailboats, catamaran. We do the training. We need captains that are willing to be trained and of course friendly, and we require to have their US Coast Guard with US passport too. We also do a lot of education. We have already trained 5 captains that are teaching powerboat lessons in the Caribbean between USVI and Puerto Rico. We teach sailing, ASA courses, and sailboats and catamarans. And I'm going to open two schools in Puerto Rico in October 2021 this year. We also are brokers, so we can charter boats around the world. Sometimes we have VIP clients who like us to take them everywhere, and I have been flown to Croatia, and every year we go to different places. And we are also here in Annapolis. In Annapolis, I help supply captains to different charter companies in Annapolis. Right now, I have 3 contracts. And of course, every charter company is different and the requirements are different, but they'll require to be US citizens. And some of them require to have, like in the Caribbean, we have to have the STCW and the Maritime Consortium, CPR, etc. In Annapolis, we do the interviews between March and April. We already covered what we need for this year. But if you want to know how to get work, I will have a sign here in English that said, you know, employee opportunities. For the Caribbean, we work from October through August. Of course, we don't work on a hurricane season, but we are in charge of moving a lot of these boats and put them on safe spots for the hurricane season. So we'll be busy all year round. The page is called capitanasos.com. It's really easy to find. I started a company in 2014. And the reason it's called SOS because everybody used to call me, it's an emergency, Suzy, we need a captain. So right now I have 29 captains working for me, 10 crew members, and 7 chefs. And in Annapolis, currently I have 7 captains working on a part-time basis to help and work in a different charter companies here in Annapolis. We will be expanding next year, so we will need more instructors or captains who are willing to learn to become instructors. And again, thank you for the opportunity to be here. My helpers are my sons. They help me. The video person is my brother, so it's a family-owned company. And we have done weddings too. So we do a little bit of everything. Of course, it's nice to be back on the business because it was very difficult for us since Puerto Rico was shut down March 10, and it was very difficult. But we've been very busy working in the USVI. And thank you. If you have any questions, again, capitanasos.com. I'm here to answer questions and look forward to meeting new captains.
All right. Thank you, Captain Suzy. I'm a wedding officiant, so if you need somebody to do weddings on your boats, just let me know, and I'll I'll be available. Before we take any questions, which Captain Priscilla will put forth to you guys, please make sure that I have your mailing addresses. Email them to me directly, president@capca.net, so you can get one of these beautiful mugs. This is what we get to every one of our speakers. Very heavy duty, very nicely put together. And you will be getting one in by UPS. So I just need to have the correct shipping address. So with that, I'll turn it over to Priscilla, so you can pose the questions to our panelists. Right now, it's about 8:11. I think maybe we can go to at least 8:30 or longer if people need it. And I'm good with the time wise, so I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, the first question goes to Rick, and it's a good one. I was thinking about this one myself. Rick, what's the advantage of an ATB versus a self-propelled tanker of the same size?
Good question. Good question. From an operator's perspective, from Vane's perspective, the advantages are a few. To give you an example, the cost of construction of the ATB, the one I showed you, the larger one, is about $45 million. For a self-propelled tanker of the same size, you can almost double that cost. You're also restricted in the U.S. shipyards that could build it. Unfortunately, U.S. shipbuilding has suffered over the years. So the choices for new construction are limited in the United States. And because we operate under Jones Act, U.S. cabotage laws, it has to be built in the United States with U.S. steel and crewed by U.S. mariners. So one advantage purely is the cost of construction. The other thing that we capitalize on is that if I have a propulsion failure, they're interchangeable. I can take the tug out of the notch. I can bring a sister tug into the notch, and I can keep going so I don't delay the customer. If you have a self-propelled unit and you have a main engine failure, you're going to be out. I'm going to delay the customer. I'm going to lose revenue. Probably the other important component to this is a self-propelled tanker of the same size under Coast Guard requirements would carry probably, I'm going to venture to say, 19 to 20 crew members. I carry 10, so I can be more competitive in my pricing for an oil major, and my operating costs are down. So those are probably the three most important items.
Something to think about when we see the few self-propelled that we see, but we often see ATVs. And I found that very interesting technology, particularly with the spuds or whatever you call them that lock into the notch and connect you to the vessel. It's an interesting engineering when you think about the stresses on both vessels. Okay, another question from Vicky. This one's for Suzy. Suzy, what companies do you work with in Annapolis?
Yes, I work with classic sail charters that do day trips, like, you know, sunsets and so on. Dream Yacht and Cruise Annapolis. Those three.
Yeah, Vicky, do you have any other questions that you want to turn your mic on? Anything specific?
No, thank you.
Okay. I have a question from Dale, and it might be useful for everybody. Chris Judy asks, Dale, can you please show the slide right before the hiring slide? He can't ask that because his speaker doesn't work. And could you just put that slide up from your presentation, Dale? We need this health and wellness break, that's for sure.
Technical assistance.
Yeah, right.
Is that the slide she was looking for? I believe that was the slide she was looking
Is this the one?
for, but our speaker didn't work.
Yeah, Chris's speaker doesn't work. Is Chris's picture up though? Chris, do you have your video on? Because you could do hand gestures, appropriate hand gestures. I'm looking for you, Chris.
Do you need any more information off of that? If so,
Chris, can you hear us? That's your thumbs up, right? Okay, good. See, there's a way to make it work.
Okay,
Any other questions? I'm checking out here down the chat. I don't see anything else. Does anybody want to open their microphone and actually speak to ask a question?
I would.
Yeah.
It's Captain Dan, and
Hi, Dan.
I work for Watermark. I captain one of their smaller boats out of Annapolis, and I'm crewing in Baltimore. And I just want to share with everyone that it's a great opportunity for 50-ton masters to upgrade to 100-ton. If you work with Watermark as a crew member, it's a quick way of getting your upgrade. So this is my second year with Watermark. They're great people, and can't speak more highly about them.
Okay, anybody else?
Yes, this is Captain Hans.
Yeah, hi, Hans.
I have a question for Dale. I saw that among the perhaps the last slides that Bain Brothers were building a shallow draft vessel, possibly to work on the Mississippi. Is Bain Brothers active on the Mississippi and any of the related inland rivers?
So we don't have activity on the Mississippi River. We work on the Gulf of Mexico and some activity in the Gulf Intercoastal Waterway. But the shallow draft boats that I showed predominantly employed on the eastern shore of Maryland and the Chesapeake Bay is where you'll see them. We are going to deploy one of those to actually New York. So she'll be working in New York Harbor, Long Island Sound, Rockaway area. That'll be in the summer, but no, we're not active on the Mississippi River. That's one of the few places we're not.
Anybody else?
Yeah, this is Bob. Vane Brothers. How heavy do you anticipate the traffic to be on the Chesapeake this summer with the container ships going back and forth and all the different kinds of vessels? The estimation?
We I guess the answer is we're starting to see an increase in ship traffic because this past year has been pretty tough. There's been a decrease. You're going to see larger ships. The TEUs on the container ships, much larger ships now. So we're seeing less ship calls into all ports, not just on the Chesapeake Bay, but the West Coast, New York, down in the Southeast. You're seeing less ship calls, but the ships that are calling are much, much bigger than we're seeing in the past. So you're looking at 14,000, 18,000 TEU ships. These are massive ships. But the frequency, it's off a little bit. And obviously the cruise industry, I think everybody knows in the United States, around the world, has been pretty much decimated. So cruise activity is off, and we're not getting any indication that we're going to see that probably till the end of summer for the large cruise ships.
You're saying bigger ships, but fewer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Let's hope it's not the Ever Given.
I saw that in the background. I was kind of wondering.
Have you guys seen the cartoon with the bridge conversation on the Ever Given? One guy on the bridge says, "Bet you can't turn around in the canal." And the other guy says, "Hold my beer." Anything else? Thank you. Back to you, Bill.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. Again, we are looking for volunteers for communications director, jobs program director, assistant editor for Constant Contact, assistant to programs and events director, and Twitter monitor. To see what these positions entail, please go to our website, capca.net, and look under Priscilla's leadership.
Yeah, log into the member side. You have to remember your login. If you're not a member, you can join, and we'll be glad to help you figure this out, because you don't have to be a longtime member to do the jobs. The working conditions are great. The management is very easy. And the pay is just outstanding.
Okay, so
I have one question. Did you say you're looking for someone to monitor our phone?
No, that was Twitter account.
Twitter accounts.
Oh, no, forget it.
Okay. No, we don't get that many phone calls, and this is.
I know. Well, that's why I was going to volunteer.
Okay.
To do that.
Well, you can monitor the Twitter feed, whatever. Okay, and with that, again, I'd like to thank our panelists. I thought this was a great evening. A lot of information was shared. A lot of good stuff came across. Hopefully the recording will be okay. I'll take a look at it. It's going to take a while to compile after we log off, and I'll see how it turns out, and we'll put it up there on our website, and we'll send out a link, I guess. Go ahead. So
our next speaker.
Oh.
Well, I can do that for you. Our next
if you can, please.
Our next meeting is May 17th, which is a little bit out of sequence because we don't meet close to Memorial Day. Our next speaker is Captain Bill Washington.
Oh.
Who's going to talk about, he forgot.
I forgot.
Throw something together by May 17th to talk about the issue of shared waterways. There was a very good NTSB report a year or two ago called Shared Waterways, and it had a lot of good things that are important both for recreational users as well as professional captains. May 17th, same deal, Zoom. We'll put the Zoom login about a week before the actual event, and Bill will be ready by then.
Oh,
You're ready right now.
I'm actually all ready. I just forgot. That's why I rely on you, Priscilla, to keep me straight.
That's why I'm the secretary.
Yeah, it's basically navigation safety, shared waterways. It's not rules of the road or anything like that, although I do touch on a lot of that stuff. It's just common sense, and I won't give too much of it away. I have presented it at the boat show out in Dulles, National Capital Boat Show. I was supposed to do it again when the pandemic hit, and I opted not to, even though I think they maybe canceled that at the last minute. I'm one of those high risk people between age and medical conditions. Keep going though, but I wouldn't do it around there. But this way, it'll be a chance to get it out there again. But yeah, thank you, Priscilla. I completely forgot about that.
Well,
Yeah.
next speaker is important.
Yeah, and it's going to be me. Okay, well, again, with that, make sure that I get your panelists, your addresses. And so I can send you one of these, again, I'll show it again. One of these beautiful CAPCA mugs. Holds a pretty good size, pretty good amount of coffee or juice or whatever else you may want to imbibe. And with that, I am going to say goodbye to all of you in the meeting. And we'll see you all next month.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks to all the speakers. It was great. Absolutely very interesting.
Great.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.